we are tier ranking the 2023
Come on.
rookie running back class. This is for Dynasty football purposes.
Ooh.
Now, this video, we might go in depth on some of these running backs. So if you don't want a long video, you don't want a lot of conversations, this might not be the place for you. But we're going to look at 6 tiers. We currently have 6 tiers for these running backs.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about them. We're going to break them down. And obviously have, I already know one player. We're going to have some ridiculous
I think we need to
on.
just have like an even ground. It's like, okay, we disagree. You can have him where you have him, and then if there was somebody that I really want, I'll just have him where I have him. And like
I don't mind that.
We'll just disagree on it.
Do us a favor, guys. Drop a like to show some support. Subscribe if you like Dynasty content, and why don't you comment down below who is your favorite non-popular? You could call it a sleeper, I guess. Rookie running back in the 2023 class. Obviously, these rankings are before draft capital, and draft capital historically has been very important, so that will change things. We'll start from tier 6 and we'll make our way up. Why don't I tell you who I have in tier 6,
Sure.
and you tell me if you have anyone else?
Sure.
Okay, so in tier 6, I have Eric Gray.
I'm there.
Do you have Eric Gray?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm there
a
with
lot of
you.
people like. I couldn't get there as far as where everyone else has him. In tier 6, I also have Dwayne McBride.
I do have him as well. I'm with you.
Which very good. The competition just wasn't there, and I think context clues lead a lot of question marks.
Right.
Deuce Vaughn, I also have here.
I don't have Deuce there.
You have him higher? Okay.
I do have him in a different tier, but I'm happy.
We'll have to talk about
that. We can definitely talk about him.
I
know the
have real
why.
concerns with the size. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk about it. And then I have Mohamed Ibrahim and Rashawn Johnson, who I actually feel like I could move Rashawn Johnson up.
So,
but
yeah,
let me know.
I'm there with you. So, Mohamed, Dwayne, and Eric are all my 3 running backs in my tier 6. So the 3 that we have there now is correct for me.
Okay, so
I only have 3 in the bottom.
You don't have Deuce there, is what you're saying.
I don't have Deuce. No, I don't have Deuce, and I don't have Roscoe Johnson, which I'd like to call him.
Okay. Okay.
Big old Roscoe.
I was trying to find out if that was like a nickname for him.
No, it's just something. I don't know why. That's what I think
you
of.
just like saying it.
Big old Roscoe.
Okay, so we're going to have to debate over these 2 players.
Sure.
If you have both of them in tier 5.
I do.
And I prefer if we move one up, it to be Rashawn, because I can see a scenario in which he gets much more opportunity.
I completely agree.
He's got huge size. I mean, the dude's frame is ridiculous.
So yeah,
are you happy to like one of the 2? You have to choose one.
So
I would say Rashawn, but you make the choice because it's your guys.
I had Johnson higher than Deuce, so I'm really happy to put him in tier 5.
Okay.
Deuce is my last running back in my tier 5. So it's not necessarily. I do believe the talent is there, and I agree with you. It's the size that we're all worried about. But if he can have that, which feels like a 1 in a million chance to be a smaller running back and somehow contribute to a team, I love it because everything else is there, in my personal opinion.
Let's talk about these running backs that are off the board right now. I don't want to go into too much depth just on these guys just yet. But just quickly, I want to give 30-second snippet, and you just add on anything that you kind of, saw as well with Eric Gray specifically. There's a lot of people who are much higher on him than we are. I just don't see any sort of elite explosiveness or acceleration or burst. I think he's really going to struggle in that area when it translates to the NFL. Dwayne McBride, very good natural runner. If I'm not mistaken, you guys let me know if I'm wrong, and let me actually pull up his scouting report. He had like 4 targets on the year. Is that right?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it was 4 targets.
Yeah, I believe
100%.
he had like 4 targets on the year. He had ridiculous yardage. He had like 1,700 rushing yards. Yeah, he had 2 receptions on 4 targets.
It was bad.
And yeah, so projecting him as a receiver is almost impossible. I mean, he was 153rd of 168 running backs in college football who ran a receiving route. As far as like the amount of times that he did, and the competition he faced, I just don't think it's going to translate very well.
Yeah.
Mo Ibrahim, I actually loved watching his film. I really did. The issue is he's had multiple serious
injuries.
Lower leg injuries. He's going to be 25 years old as a rookie running back.
Yep.
But he was really fun to watch. If he was like one of these guys who was 21 years old coming in, he could be much, much higher and no injury history.
I would agree. I would agree, and that's why he's my first in this tier 6, just because of all the attributes that he does have. The injuries.
Yeah, I actually have him. I have him ahead of Deuce as well.
Yeah, all the injuries do definitely concern me, but I mean, it's just like nothing went.
He's fun.
Nothing went with him at all. The age is not with him. The injuries is not with him. It's just not there, unfortunately. But if somehow he can kind of turn it around, maybe. But I don't know
about you, but I saw a little Damian Harris in his game.
Yeah, he's a bigger guy. I mean, he's pretty strong. He has really good contact balance, in my opinion. You know,
oh my gosh, dude, the contact balance is ridiculous for this guy.
It's really good. Insane. He's really good at that. So I mean, why not? And
by the way,
why not have an opportunity?
He had the second most yards after contact as well in college football. Second out of 168 running backs who had a minimum of 100 attempts. So yeah, Mo. Some people might be like, put Mo higher, put Mo higher. You guys comment down below if you think we should, but I struggle to see a scenario he gets earlier than like 6th. That's maybe too harsh. 5th, 6th round draft capital.
I mean,
I don't think he's going to get much investment.
I think there's a place where these are the guys where there's a scenario where they don't get drafted. Let's just be honest. Like that's my. I think
most of them do, but you're right. I think specifically for me, Deuce, because of his size, I'm concerned. But
yeah, that's fair.
I mean, Mo can be like a RB 3 or 4 on a depth chart for sure, but they could be practice squad. Who knows? All right, and then Rashawn Johnson, 6'2", 223. I mean, the guy's frame is just ridiculous. The burst isn't really there though. Not very good laterally. In fact, I wrote down really lacks lateral agility and quickness you want from a rotational running back in the NFL. This could lead to a limited role. So great strength, pretty good pass catcher because he played a lot of third down for them.
Yep.
A mammoth of a man, but 4 years at Texas, he never put up big numbers. So only averaged 7.8 rushing attempts a game on his career.
It's unfortunate.
I think the ceiling, you're looking at like a Ramondre Stevenson, but the floor is much lower, like a Hassan Haskins, Latavius Murray, older Latavius Murray. So short yardage bruiser with rotational upside is kind of what I labeled him. I don't know if you saw anything else.
No, I completely agree. It's unfortunate that he was behind Bijan. There's no way you're going to get opportunity unless Bijan was going to miss a significant amount of time. Which he really didn't. So I think he's just a big running back guy that, like you said, a bruiser that can get, those first or second down yardage for you if you need it, right? So and I think that's exactly what he plays, which we kind of like. He can have some fantasy value there.
He can definitely earn a role, no doubt. He's one of those players where like the God-given traits could really shine for sure.
Big old Roscoe.
All right.
I love saying
we'll put Roscoe in tier 5. I'll start to name some guys I have here in this tier 5. I have Chase Brown here, which I think we're going to disagree on.
Correct.
Okay.
He's not in this
Chase
tier.
Brown's my RB 12.
Okay.
Where do you have him? What tier?
I have him tier 4. He's my RB 7.
He's your RB 7.
Yes, I love Chase Brown. So we can have a conversation later, and let's talk about the tier, and then we're
gonna have to have a conversation about him for sure. I have Tajay Spears here.
Agreed.
Okay. I actually really like Tajay's game, but I'm not sure the draft capital is going to be there. Kenny McIntosh I have in this tier as well. Do you?
I do not have Kenny McIntosh in this tier.
You don't have Kenny here. You have him higher.
No. I do have a lot of people in my 4th tier, to be fair. Okay. But honestly, I'll tell you who I have. I have Roscoe.
Well, let me just say one last player I have is Kendre Miller.
Okay. I do have Kendrick Miller in this tier, and that is the last person that I
will be very controversial, but we'll talk about it in a second. Okay, who else do you have here?
That's it. So I have Deuce, Roscoe, Tajay, and Kendre Miller in tier 5.
Okay, you have Deuce, Roscoe, Tajay, and Kendre in tier 5 is what you're saying. So between Kenny and Chase, you're going to have to make a decision.
It'll be Kenny.
This is good. I'm getting a lot of leverage for later on.
It'll be Kenny.
I'm going to get to make some moves later on. You're going to keep Kenny?
No, we'll move Kenny down.
You're going to move Kenny down?
Yeah, I'm happy to move Kenny down, yes.
Okay, we'll talk about these players here. Tajay, Kenny, Kendre, and Chase. Why don't we start from the back end? We'll make our way to Chase. Firstly, on Tajay Spears. He's 5'10", 190 pounds, 3-star recruit. He played at Tulane. If you want to watch the absolute ceiling of what this player could be, go watch the bowl game versus USC this year. I mean, he was really special.
It was good. It was really good.
I think he can be a good complementary running back. I'm not sure. Currently projected to be like a 6th, 7th round pick. We'll see if that changes. I comp him a little bit to Raheem Mostert, Zonovan Knight, Justice Hill. So not a player that I see making a huge fantasy impact, but the lateral explosiveness is really special. Good contact balance.
Good
He's just he's just like an undersized guy. Question marks around his receiving ability. He's had a torn ACL already. So I'm just not sure how the NFL will invest in him, and that worries me.
No, I completely agree. I think the biggest thing here is his ACL. In my opinion, it'll be 2 years or 3 years removed. If I'm not mistaken, he did tear his ACL in 2020. So actually 3 years. We're in 2023 now, guys. Wow. So yes, 3 years, 3 years removed from that ACL, and he does have, like you said, the lateral movement is fine. The quickness, the agility is still there at times. I think it's a bit inconsistent, and I think he needs to find it a little bit more. But he's there. He has the instincts to be a great running back or a complimentary back. Let's see how he can contribute and where he would land. I really like him. That's why he's in my tier 5.
And I personally would say, like, this tier 5 are players that I could see being big surprises. I have Chase Brown there. I know you don't. But in the sense that they could develop roles like a James Robinson did when he was a rookie and be surprises that kind of lead running back rooms. Someone here I think will make a big impact. I don't know who it is, but someone could. Next, Kenny McIntosh. I mean, the size is interesting. He's 6'1", 210.
Yeah.
There's versatility. He's a proven pass catcher. I think even if he goes to a team that struggles with receivers, like the Patriots, for example, they could put him in the slot.
100%.
I mean, there's versatility for
100%.
this player to play in the backfield, play in the slot. I think he'd be a really good third down back. The speed is above average, certainly nowhere near elite, but really struggles to process. Reads quickly enough to adjust, has never been given a full workload, but that is the Georgia treatment. And I don't think there's any true elite traits in this game that separate him. So currently projected to be a 3rd round pick in the NFL draft. I think he'll be a rotational back with a pass catching role. I comped him a little bit to Rachaad White as his ceiling, like his tippy top ceiling. But yeah, I think he's more of a complimentary guy. I don't see him ever being like the guy on a team.
And I think that's exactly why I like Kenny. Well, I like him because he's a pass catching back, right? And we've seen that so much in the NFL and how much that is crucial for some of these teams. They need a guy like that. They need a change of pace guy. They need a guy that can run in between the tackles. Is not his biggest strength, but his biggest strength is to be a pass catching back and take that ball to the next level. Kind of like, I said he is a bigger Vermondre Stevenson, and that's his super high ceiling, and which I do agree. Rachaad White body frame and probably what he can do and what Rachaad White was this year. I like that pathway for Kenny, just because I think I see the pathway for Kenny as Rachaad White. He's going to be a guy that's going to be a pass catching guy, and then they'll be like, hey, maybe we should give Kenny the ball more, just overall.
Exactly. So, or like a Tony Pollard, like, hey, this guy shows a little bit of something our other running back doesn't. Let's get him a little bit more involved. Yeah. I could see that kind of thing happening.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, now Kendre Miller, and comment down below. I know there's probably already people who are, while they're watching the comment, or they're like, I turned the video off when you put Kendre Miller this low. People who comment stuff like that. Like, I stopped watching after you did this. But Kendre Miller, we don't have him in a higher tier than this. He is tier 5 for us. This is a difficult one for me, to be honest, guys, because this season, if you guys have been on this channel for a while, in September of this year, I'm the one, not the only one, but I am the one on this channel putting Kendre on the map. Like, hey, let's talk about Kendre Miller. Let's just have a conversation. There could be something here. I was almost the conductor of the train. But now we have people who have him RB3, RB4 in this class, and I can't get there. I'm sorry. I thought he might be a sleeper this year, someone that we could talk about in the, like, oh, this guy could be special. Like, maybe he develops a role in the NFL. But people just have him way too high for me. And I don't think that the Dynasty community and the NFL draft community align very well as far as projecting his draft capital, because I haven't seen many people project him any higher than like the 5th round in the NFL draft. Yeah. That could change. Absolutely. We're still a long way off from the draft, but I don't know if this is a disconnect between the Dynasty community and the NFL draft. I more lean towards where the NFL draft community is currently. I see like a floor of like a Kerryon Johnson, Ronald Jones. He's a bigger body than those guys, but a really good college player. I'm not sure it translates to the NFL. If it does, it'll be a pathway like Chris Carson had, where late round draft pick, stood out in camp, and then just continually earned opportunities. But great strength and great contact balance. I really like those two parts of his game. However, I don't think he's a special athlete. I don't think he has very impressive burst. He certainly doesn't have long run speed.
No.
The vision is subpar. I think at times there's times where it's good and there's times where it's subpar. And he's not a very good pass catcher. I know some people think he is, but for someone who's watching all 22 film on Kendre Miller, I'm constantly asking myself, why is there another running back in on obvious passing down scenarios? That's just how it was for TCU at many times this year. More games than not, he's on the sideline watching when they need a pass catcher. So
exactly.
I think he's a big, strong runner, hit you in the mouth type of guy, can absolutely be good on the goal line, short yardage scenario. But I don't think there's elite traits that separate him from the rest of the class, Badaki.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that he's just a role player. I think he is, in my opinion, at best, a reliever back. And you kind of think of what Ronald Jones was, like you said. I mean, that's a great comp. He's what Ronald Jones was at the time when he kind of came out with Lenny, and it was like, okay, well, Ronald Jones could have some opportunity, but he's just gonna help. He's gonna help a team when somebody is hurt, when somebody is tired. He's not gonna be a guy, in my opinion, that's gonna demand targets, is gonna demand attempts, that's gonna be able to hit the hole, like you said, with the speed. The lack of speed is something that I think is massive. He's just a size, in my opinion. He's just a big size guy. What is he? 220, if I'm not mistaken, 6 foot.
Yeah, he is 220.
So I mean,
he's got a nice frame. He really does.
He does, but it's just the size that will be that maybe NFL teams will like about him.
This is another one of those players where it's really dangerous if you just turn on a highlight tape. Like, I just cannot advise against highlight tapes more than I possibly could right now. It's not helpful to scouting.
Yeah, he definitely has. Like, I have him as a sleeper, right? Like,
yeah, same. I wanted him to stay in that tier, but there's people who have him as an RB3.
Yeah,
RB2.
So I think that's really crazy, and it's crazy to say that we have him as a sleeper, and we're kind of comparing him to Ronald Jones. I mean, when Ronald Jones came in, we really liked him. When he got the opportunity, we liked him. He had that 1 year where it was like, okay, Ronald Jones, okay, and then it was just like, oh, that makes sense. Like, Lenny's just better, like. I don't know.
I do see a little Chris Carson in him, though. I see a lot more physicality than Ronald Jones brings. So I brought him as a floor, as like a safe kind of lower your expectations. But I see the Chris Carson upside. I see the like hit you in the mouth type of player. The not afraid of contact, will extend plays with his strength. So, but again, I wanted to keep him in like the sleeper category, but people are putting him in this like upper echelon of the class, and I can't get there.
I hear you.
All right, let's talk about Chase Brown.
Big old
downtown Chase Brown. If Chase Brown's drafted by the Browns, I want to call him Chase Brown downtown Brown.
Chase Brown downtown.
But why don't you make a case for him being in this tier? I've had a lot of leeway so far. I've let you have your way, but I want you to make a case for why he should be in tier 4.
Look, guys, I mean, if you guys don't know who Chase Brown is, go watch some of his film. I think there is fantastic abilities that he does bring. He is a workhorse guy. He may be a smaller guy, 5'10", 5'11", 205 pounds, but he has the workload. Was it 329 attempts on the ground? I mean, they did run him to the ground, but I think the opportunity is there for Chase Brown to carry a workload. The speed is phenomenal. He has home run hitting speed, in my opinion. He may not have the elite speed, but he has home run hitting speed. I think it's phenomenal. He is a bell cow that is explosive as well. He can go in between the tackles. There is times where he can look a little bit lackluster. Maybe that's because he's exhausted with all the attempts he's had, right? But I also believe, the cuts, the vision, I think he is there. He is there as a guy, in my personal opinion. And I think he could be a guy that can take his game to the next level in the NFL. Now, draft capital is going to matter for Chase. I think right now he's projected to go in the 4th round. If he can squeeze into the 3rd, high mid 3rd, I think that it could be a really, really good opportunity for Chase. And that's higher than a lot of people. That's higher than someone like Dameon Pierce. But if he gets a Dameon Pierce type draft capital with opportunity, then hey, then we'll have another conversation. But I love everything that he's doing. I think he can move. I think there is a chance, and I like Chase Brown, but I do believe there's a chance he could become a rotational guy. I believe he has the ability to be the workhorse based off his college history. But I would agree with the community that would say, okay, I can see him being a Tony Pollard type, bro. I can see him being a guy that can be a pass catching guy because he does have pass catching ability as well. So that's for me. I love Chase Brown. He's currently my RB7 in this class.
All right.
I love him. I love him.
Let's talk about it. I respect where you come from. I 100% respect it. He's your RB7. He's my RB12.
That's big.
So I have him more around here.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I would put him. I keep hearing people say that he's like this strong running back. He's great through contact, and I think that's a little bit misleading. First off, he's 5'11", 205 pounds. I think the size shows. Because I keep seeing everyone talk about, oh man, he's so strong. He's so strong through contact. He plays above his weight. I don't think he does. I mean, he's not very reliable, in my opinion, on short yardage scenarios. I don't think he's going to be very good on the goal line. And you look at his yards after contact total this year. He had 935 yards after contact. That is 7th in the nation of running backs who had a minimum of 100 attempts. Really good, right? So I'm looking at that number and I'm watching the film and thinking to myself, I don't get it. How do we get here? Because I think when you include context, it makes a lot more sense. We're talking about a running back. Y'all know Bijan Robinson, right? You know about him. Chase Brown had 108 more rushing attempts this year than Bijan Robinson. Chase Brown had 329 rushing attempts. Actually, he had just under 100 more than Bijan. That is second in the country. There is only a few players, like a handful, like 2 or 3, who had a higher usage rate this year in college football than Chase Brown. So inevitably, when you are the offense, I believe he contributed over 75% of this team's rushing attack this year. When you are used that way, some of these numbers are going to look a little bit skewed. 7th in yards after contact. But then I think a more accurate representation of yards after contact is yards after contact per attempt. Let's look at that number. 2.86, which is mediocre. That's actually 108th of 168 running backs who had a minimum of 100 attempts in college football. That number feels like what I saw on film, personally. Because you're going to look at the missed tackles that were forced. You're going to say, wow, he's so high there. But again, we're talking about one of the running backs who had the most usage rate of any offensive weapon in college football. The hundreds and hundreds of schools in college football. This dude was the feature, if not like a top 5 usage at the running back position. So on one hand, you can say it's good that he was able to handle that workload. On the other hand, you're going to look at these stats and metrics and you're going to be, I believe, misled a little bit. What I like about him, I like the speed. I like the burst. I don't think he has home run speed, maybe, but I more like the way he uses his speed to get to the edge. I'm not so sure that he's going to outrun defensive backs in the NFL, but I think the speed and burst is good. I'll agree there. And I think he's a good pass catcher. I think he's proven that. But I'm not so sure about everything else. I don't think the strength is there. I don't think the break tackle ability is anywhere near special. He's not very elusive. In fact, that's one of the things I disliked the most about his game. I'm watching film on Chase Brown. It feels like every time a defender gets there, they're taking him down the first time, which I don't understand. Again, how is there so much yards after contact? But he didn't seem like a player that was very difficult to get down. And as far as vision and patience, it's questionable for me because I think he has the IQ to read and get creative. I just don't think that he has that short area, like really special short area explosiveness to execute on it. So for me, there's not a part of his game that really would stand out to make me fall in love with him. And maybe I'm too low on him at RB12 because I know a lot of people like him. But I think some of these stats are a little bit misleading. I mean, 5 yards per attempt, that's not anything to write home about. He had 10 touchdowns, and he had the second most rushing attempts in college football. I know the offense was a little bit different. The yardage doesn't blow me away when you consider the usage. So not a very elusive guy. I mean, his elusive rating was pretty low compared to the rest of the class. It was 80th of 168 running backs, minimum of 100 attempts. Breakaway rate was really, really average. And breakaway rate we kind of want to use for like acceleration and burst. That's how many runs were over 15 yards? Like, what percentage of your attempts? He had 32%. That's 95th of 168 running backs. So, also, he had a pretty big fumble issue, by the way. 8 total career fumbles. Like, that's definitely something I think scouts will look at. Like, how did Antonio Gibson lose his job? You know, fumbles were a big part of it. So, I don't like the size. I don't think he projects to be a 3-down running back. I don't think he has the kind of strength that's needed. There's not elite traits for me. As an athlete, I think the workload was awesome, but I see more Zach Moss, Devin Singletary type running back, like a rotational guy who, could lead the team in carries, but I don't think it's any sort of long-term superstar. So I have him pretty low, and I'll just make my case there as to why I have him low. But again, we see things differently, and that's okay.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm actually gonna let you keep him there. Again, to clarify, I would have him back here. I like some of these guys better.
That's fair.
In fact, putting him ahead of Kindre makes me a little dizzy, but
okay.
I'm fine to keep him there because I want to fight battles elsewhere. And I've loaded up ammunition to fight battles elsewhere.
That's fair.
Let's look at this tier 4. Unless you have anything else to say on Chase Brown.
That's fine.
Okay.
No, let's continue with the tier
4. All
right.
I only have 2 running backs in my tier 4. That's it.
Okay.
And one of them being my sleeper of the year. But we'll talk about him in a second. The first one is Tank Bigsby. And I want to make sure I'm actually getting Tank's. I believe this is Tank Bigsby here. Yeah. It's so hard to recognize their faces.
Yeah, 100%.
But Tank Bigsby, and then I have my sleeper of the year, which is Israel Abanikanda, which I believe this is Israel's photo. Yeah. I'll have to double check. But do you have anyone else in this tier?
I have Devin A-Train.
Okay.
I had Kenny McIntosh, which we already put in tier 5.
Okay.
I have Tank, Izzy, Chase, and Zach Evans.
Okay.
In my tier 4.
This is why I kind of let you, have your say on those last couple players. Because I really want to advocate for a couple guys in the next tier into tier 3. So you mentioned Zach Evans. I would like to go ahead and advocate for him into tier 3, and we'll talk about him in a second.
Yep.
And you mentioned Devin A-Chain. A-Chain. I actually would like to advocate for those 2 guys. So I know you advocated for Chase Brown, Rashawn Johnson.
Sure.
Is it fair if I can advocate for those guys to be in tier 3?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, we can go for it.
Okay, and we'll talk about those guys in a second. But why don't you tell me a little bit about Tank Bigsby, things that you like, things that you dislike, and then I'll tell us about Izzy.
Yeah, Tank's a tank. 6 foot, 213 pounds. He's a guy that's going to come in and be a bruiser for your team. He's going to be a goal line guy. He doesn't have the overall speed. He doesn't have an amazing vision or anything, but he is a guy that's going to hit you in between the tackles, right? He's going to try and get that extra yardage for you. He is a guy that is going to be he's going to do everything he can to get that extra yards, and he's also got some work in the air, which was really surprising, especially being the size he is. He's not the fastest guy, but he's definitely there. 17 in yards after contact amongst 168 running backs, 13 in yards average per after contact, which means he averaged 4.16 yards after the contact, which is really great.
Well, that's really impressive.
That's out of 168 running backs. So, like I said, Tank's a tank. He is the guy that's going to come in and do everything possible for your team. And he's, once again, he doesn't have the home run hitting speed, but getting him into space is going to be hard to take him down, right? So I like what he can do, and he's a great, ideal size for a running back coming in to the NFL right now.
He's one of those players, and I would say these players here in tier 4, I think have legit shots. At minimum, they're rotational players, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't know about Chase.
And that's what I have. That's what I have.
At minimum, they're rotational players, but they could be lead running backs. Yeah. They could be.
And my tier, the way I envision my tier 4, these are guys that I do believe will have, like you said, a rotational, will have some sort of workload. But they also have the asterisk next to the name to where they could take it to the next level. They could handle a 80% workload. They could handle a 70% workload. And these are the guys that are in my tier 4 that I have as well. So it's a little bit different.
On that, because again, I've heard people talk about Chase Brown's strength, and I hate to go back, but I just want to bring bring a connection point here for people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when I watch Tank Bigsby and I hear people say, "Oh, he's got such good strength. Like this guy's gonna hit you in the mouth." I see that on film. This dude, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he'll leave you. He'll send you straight to a ice tub. No doubt.
Right.
I don't see that with Chase. And
Mm-hmm.
then I feel like the analytics really back that up. When you look at yards after contact per attempt, we talked about Chase Brown somewhere around 2.5, was it? I can't remember. Like really, really bad number. And then you see Tank at 4.16, 12th of 168 running backs with a minimum of 100 attempts. I see that on film. That made sense to me. That lined up. I see it on film. I see the analytics. And that's that beautiful example we talk about, analytics and film really meshing well together to kind of formulate strong opinions. You don't want to lean too heavy on film because you can only watch so much.
For sure.
And you don't want to lean too heavy on analytics because you won't see the upside of some of these players that aren't shown on analytics. So I like the strength, I like the size, I like the frame, but he was hard for me to really pinpoint down because there are some plays where I'm like, holy crap, this guy looks like the third best running back in this class. And
Right.
then the very next play, I'm like, where'd the burst go? Where'd the explosiveness go? Where did the effort go?
Mm-hmm.
It was so strange for me this year. I don't get the inconsistencies. I don't want to say he runs with emotion, but it just feels like he gives different effort on different plays. So I definitely liked watching his film more this year, but I don't think he's some sort of like guaranteed workhorse guy. My floor for him is Joshua Kelly. My ceiling is like Brian Robinson.
Okay.
Absolute tippy top, a little bit of Marshawn Lynch. Again, just shades of Marshawn Lynch. I think he could be a really good reliever running back, goal line specialist with the upside to be an RB1 on a team. Currently projected to go in late third, early fourth. And I think that holds up well from what I've seen.
Yeah.
Like from what I envision.
I think it goes well 100%. I mean, he's just gonna who has a smaller running back that needs somebody?
A lot of people like
Bro,
literally
so
that's the
so
thing
many.
about Tank. Literally any team could add a Tank.
Exactly.
Bigsby
He's
and
gonna be
very happy.
utilized. I like it.
Yeah. All right, on to Izzy, my sleeper of the year. I think you love him as well.
100%. 100%.
I'm a big fan of his. I told Badaki we don't tell each other where we have players ranked, and we don't talk about players until we finish the position group because we don't want to have impact on each other.
Exactly.
We also don't read outside content really on these guys until we're done. And all I said to him was, "There's a running back I just scouted, and we're in different documents and everything. And I think I'm obsessed, and he's going to be my sleeper of the year." And then, we got to talk about it last week when we finished.
Yeah.
But Izzy is that guy for me. He is my sleeper running back in this year's class. The speed and acceleration is really special. Again, I don't want to throw around the word elite. I've said that before on this channel, but it is very, very good. We could see him like a 4.35 type 40, I would say. I'm curious to see what the 20 looks like as well. But great acceleration, great burst, great speed. I think definitely we see home run speed on film from him. He might be the second fastest running back right behind A-Chain. But we'll see what the 40 looks like. Maybe Tucker can get in there. Special short area quickness. A combination of acceleration and long run speed can make him a problem. Good pass catcher. I mean, if you look at the difference between his production through the year last year and this year, it's really different. And I think that's because Kenny Pickett was on this team.
Yeah.
So if you look at 2021, this team threw the ball 182 more times. They had 2,000 more passing yards, just barely under, and they threw 32 more touchdowns last year. 32 more touchdowns, not total, 32 more touchdowns last year. So, of course, Izzy's receiving game is not as good this year because Keaton Slovis was just really average. He threw 10 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. I mean, so the receiving game was great last year, and if Pickett was still there, I think it would have had even more. And then I think something that's being really underrated is how young he is. I mean, he's 20 years old right now.
Yeah.
I believe he'll be 21 soon,
starts,
or
if I'm not mistaken.
when the season starts.
I would say, yeah.
But the usage, there is not much mileage on Izzy. There's not. Let's look at attempts for some of these other guys, right? Bijan, 539. Zach Charbonnet, 566. Tank Bigsby, 540. 589 for Sean Tucker. Izzy is at 390. There's not many attempts on there. There's not many miles, which you like to see. Now, he does struggle in the trenches. I think for his size, which is it's 5'11", 215, I wish he was more strong through contact.
Mm-hmm.
And good contact balance, but just not good power, I would say. Not a good power back. It relies on the speed a little bit too much. I like him. I see a little bit of Raheem Mostert in the sense that, like, they're both one cut, straight through a hole type players with your speed. I see little Cam Akers. My floor is Tevin Coleman. So I'm a big fan of his. He's currently 4th round projected to go. I think he probably has a chance to go early 3rd once the combine hits. So potential starting running back with a rotational floor for me with Izzy. I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his as well. I mean, everything that you just said, you hit the nail on the head. He is the guy. The strength, like you said, the yards after contact wasn't the best, but at times you can kind of see the inconsistency where like he wants to put his shoulder down, he puts it, he gets a yard or two, but then the other times it's just like, whoa, like you just kind of fell there. At least in my perspective. But yeah, he's from Brooklyn. I'm from Brooklyn. We rep in Brooklyn. I see you at the top.
Love it. All right, in tier 3, I have 4 running backs.
Okay. I have 2.
I'm gonna make my case for a Kane and Evans. And the other guys that I have here is Sean Tucker and Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah, those are my only 2 in this tier 3.
Okay. And to be honest, I could actually put Charbonnet maybe in his own tier. But at that point, like, I think he's actually closer to these players for me than he is to a tier of his own. It was a tough position to be in. Yeah. But I'll make a case for these first 2 guys, and then we'll talk about Tucker and Charbonnet. As far as A-Chain goes, he will need to break a mold. He will need to be the exception to a rule with his size. He is 5'9", 185 pounds, probably soaking wet, wearing all the clothes in his closet. So there are people out there who are big A-Chain guys, have them as like their RB2s. They're going to make the case, well, he can put on 10 pounds by the time the combine comes on. He can get to 200. If he gets to 200, he's no longer... he's going to, if you get to 200, then you take away some of the elite traits that he has, because you can't just add weight
for sure
and then stay with the same type of player. Like, the player will change, and maybe that will improve his ability in the NFL. But former 4-star recruit out of Texas A&M, again, undersized, but there's a lot of things to like. I mean, if you only look at highlights, you'll probably think this is the best player in the draft, but obviously some concerns. Interesting prospect, limitations with size, but let's talk about the good things. The speed. If you're ever going to use the word elite speed, you can use it here with Devin. Olympic track type speed. Probably fastest man in college football type speed. The burst is great as well. Can get to his top speed quickly. Great change of direction. Stop and start on a dime type of player.
Yeah.
The lateral quickness and footwork is really good. Now, he struggles between the tackles, but the footwork is good. It's just like he doesn't have the body to handle that.
Yeah, loosen.
And I think what put me over the top with him to kind of put him in this tier 3 as a player that I think could be really special in the NFL is his pass catching ability. That, if that wasn't there, we'd be having a different conversation. But the pass catching ability, it's like he's a very, very good pass catcher. Snaps where running a receiving route, he had 299 of those this year. That is 5th in the nation for running backs. You know, if you had a minimum of 100 attempts, 48.7% of his total snaps he was running a route, which is ridiculous, right?
Yeah,
I mean, only a couple other guys in this class had that kind of number. He will be a matchup nightmare in the NFL. And when I say that he can be a 3rd down back, don't take that as disrespect, because when I say that, I'm also saying he can be the best ever 3rd down running back. He can be the best ever rotational X piece. Like, that's the kind of potential that's there. I'm not saying it will happen, but again, I'm saying the tippy top ceiling for him is like the Darren Sproles of the world. More realistically, a Tariq Cohen. And the floor, much lower, like 2 really fast guys out of Oregon, LaMichael James and DeAnthony Thomas. If you remember those guys, you have to come back with me a little bit. But yeah, the size is a real concern. The strength really struggles in between tackles. He's not going to be a short yardage back. He's absolutely not.
No.
I've said this before, but there are 2 games where I watched back to back where he had the ball at the 3-yard line. He only needed 3 yards to score a touchdown. And 1st and 2nd down, they gave it to him. He didn't gain a single yard. And that's just like, GMs are going to see that. Scouts are going to see that in the NFL. They're not going to rely on him in short yardage scenarios, which it could limit his touchdowns. Like, it definitely could.
Yeah.
He's also not a good pass blocker and doesn't really recognize blitzes very well, which left his team in some tough spots. And that's what concerns me. I could have him higher, but if he's going to be this really good 3rd down guy and he's not good as a pass protector, are you limiting your offense a little bit? Like if I'm a defensive coordinator and I know he's not a good pass protector, and I see him on the field on third down, I'm saying to myself, that guy's running a route. I know he's not protecting.
100%.
And
100%.
that could limit the calls that you could make as an offense, and it could make it easier for defenses to defend on third downs. So anyway, I see a little Raheem Mostert, Darren Sproles, Tariq Cohen. I think he'll get high draft capital because of the speed. I mean, that's just going to push him up draft boards. But he is a definition of an it factor of what could potentially be with this type of player.
I hear you.
But yeah, the size is a real concern. So again, I went on a little spiel there, but I'm a big fan of A-Chain, and I think he should be in this category with these other guys.
I think, and the reason why I don't have him there was because I had a real thought, and when I did have him, when I first did my evaluations, I had him as my RB5 originally, genuinely. And I looked at myself and I looked at his film. I looked at all the NFL GMs, like literally in the eye, because we're cool, great friends of the show. And there was, I don't see a scenario where he is going to get the touches. I don't see where they're going to, like you said, the pass blocking is massive. If you can't pass block in the first, second down, if you are a passing offense, that is tough. That's essentially saying, okay, let's put him with the Bills with Josh Allen, and Devin Singletary is not the best pass blocking running back. Now put Devin A-Chain there, a chain.
Yeah,
I don't know. So
we're going to the thriving size. Because I agree. He's never going to be like a 15+ touch a game type player.
Yeah.
He's not.
Yeah.
He's going to be more like a 9 to 12 touches per game. You get creative with it, but he could be really, really special in that sense. Like a Tony Pollard, how he developed a role, and the ideal role for him. Check this out. How about the role Jerick McKinnon currently has with the Chiefs? Put Devin A-Chain there in that kind of offense. And
he still can't block. That's the biggest thing. I mean,
he still can't block. I know McKinnon is what 208. I can't remember. But the difference there is like the personnel is different. The offense is different. The scheme is different. Yeah, Pat Mahomes, there's a difference there because if the blitz is on, he can evade the blitz. He's great at escaping.
For sure.
And evading blitz tacklers rather.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, I can see it working because you have a high IQ quarterback who has great pocket presence, who damn right he's a pass catcher. Damn right he's not going to block. So you better be able to
be
cover this guy because I'm going to make the first guy miss and extend the play.
100%. And I can definitely see that scenario. I don't think any NFL teams want to put their quarterback in that position every single time.
I get it. I agree. That's what
once again, I agree with the speed. I agree with the talent, with the pass catching ability. And I think I just had like a realization saying like, okay, this is not going to work. And it's kind of the same thing with Deuce, right? Like, the talent's there. Devin has a talent. It's just they're not going to put him in the position, unfortunately.
And I know there's some real concern. I know a lot of people have him as RB2, and I think that's just a little crazy. But I think that's kind of where I'm comfortable here. And I think he should be in this tier just because of the pass catching upside. All right, on to Zach Evans.
Oh boy,
the most controversial running back in this year's class. He's an enigma to me, but I cannot deny the athlete. I cannot deny the talent that I see on film. The special burst, decent long run speed. I mean, if you pursue this guy at the wrong angle, on film, he has proven to make you pay for that mistake.
Yeah.
I love the lateral quickness. I think he has great quick feet, quick movements in between the tackles. I love that part of his game. Good size. He is 6 foot, 215. PFF, ESPN, and even Ole Miss's website themselves have confirmed that. I know there's something going around Twitter where people saying he's 190. This guy was literally 210 pounds in high school, coming out of high school. Like, it's ridiculous that people are spreading that misinformation. Love the TCU film, the Ole Miss film. I saw a little bit of concerns with the vision, but I like the strength, not afraid of contact. He'll hit you in the mouth if he needs to. There are questions about him as a pass catcher. I don't think that he is not a good pass catcher. I just think we don't know. It's inconclusive at this point.
Right.
And the vision is a concern for me. It's just not consistent where I would want it to be. But again, the strength, the burst, the athlete that he is, the lateral quickness, the size, I think all that you see on film. And I want to address this whole, and I've said this on a different video we recorded today, but I'm just going to say it again. Because I keep hearing people say, he didn't beat out Kendre Miller. He couldn't, Kendre Miller had more touches than him. He couldn't be the workhorse there. Kendre outplayed him. You guys have no idea what you're talking about if you say that. Genuinely. Because you just completely decide to throw context out the window and decide to completely ignore any background or reason as to why the stats would look like that, okay? In 2021, when Zach Evans was on TCU with Kendre Miller, in the first 6 games, he had 648 rushing yards. He had 7 yards per attempt, and he had 5 touchdowns. In that same time, Kendre Miller had 356 yards and 5.9 yards per attempt. And we were seeing Zach Evans take around 60% of the workload. In college, that is someone who is an RB1. You don't see many college backfields where someone's getting 80% of the workload. So he was the guy for TCU before he had his toe injury, which held him out the second half of the year. If you extrapolate those numbers in his 6 games that he played at TCU to a 12-game season, which is how many games TCU played that year, he would have had around, again, he was on track for 1,296 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns. So stop with this nonsense that he didn't beat out Kendre Miller. Y'all really think that if Zach Evans was at TCU this year, Kendre Miller would have just been the guy? No, that's absolutely not what would have happened. No one in this entire world, not even TCU fans, had TCU in the national championship this year. They weren't even ranked to begin the season. Stop with that nonsense. Zach Evans went to Ole Miss because he thought he was going to have more opportunity. He just didn't realize that one of the best running backs in the 2025 class was already there in Quinshon Judkins. So stop this nonsense where he didn't beat out Kendre Miller. You're just completely ignoring context altogether, which will lead you in an interesting position. But I think injuries have held him from reaching his full potential. They're not serious injuries, right? They're not injuries that concern you long term. Like the toe injury, that happened. What are you supposed to do? He had a toe injury. He missed half of the year at TCU. So, yes, he was the RB1. He was ahead of Kendre Miller. Let's set the record straight. When he went to Ole Miss, just this freak of an athlete, this freak of a running back talent, and Quinshon Judkins shows up. I'm not going to hurt Zach Evans in my process because of Quinshon Judkins, because I don't think it's exactly the right process to be like, well, compare him to this player. Compare him to this player. No, use his traits. Talk about his game. If you tell me you don't like his vision, fair enough. I kind of see some of that. If you say you have question marks about his pass catching ability, fair enough. I can see some of those concerns. But if you're going to sit here and say Quinshon Judkins led the team, you're undervaluing Quinshon Judkins. You're undervaluing Ole Miss's ability to recruit, and Lane Kiffin, the elite recruiter that he is, and you're not actually saying anything about Zach Evans. You're just talking about a different player. Use the player that you're talking about, his traits, not someone else's. So I'm going to say my piece on it. I know you disagree, but I think we could go on for literally an hour. So let's just leave it there. My ceiling is Melvin Gordon, Miles Sanders. My floor is Andre Ellington, Lawrence Maroney, as far as a decisive downhill runner. I think he can get late second, early third round draft capital. And I've said this before, but if he falls to the Dolphins in the second or third round, watch, everybody's going to be on board. Everybody's going to be like, you know what? Yeah, I actually do kind of like this. Yeah, I like Zach Evans. Yeah, I actually was, I'm in now. If he gets the right landing spot, people are going to be in.
No, look, I'll make this quick because we have about 8 minutes left. And then we can go quickly with these other guys. Zach Evans, I don't think he took the necessary big strides I was expecting him to take from 2021 from the film, even though it was a short film in 2021. It's unfortunate. I think the ability, the pass catching ability, the speed is all there. It just didn't seem like he wanted to. It just didn't. Maybe it's just the way I'm feeling, but I just feel like he didn't want to take his game to the next level, and maybe that's just a wrong feeling by me. Maybe.
How do you quantify that, though?
I know
that's my problem, because I hear people say that, how exactly are you quantifying that?
It's the way he reacts on film, the way he could have had an opportunity, or maybe body language. There's just so much, kind of like Kayshawn, and maybe I'm a hypocrite because I'm saying a lot of people are doing that on Kayshawn and I'm doing it on Zach Evans, but it's just genuinely the way I feel.
Yeah.
And I think there's just so much more to Zach Evans' situation than what we potentially know. Yeah. But I think the talent's there, the speed's there, and everything. I think there's some definitely things I was hoping for him to improve on.
Yeah. And if you want to look at opportunities given and what they did with opportunities at Ole Miss, I think a lot of people would be really surprised by what Zach Evans did versus Quinshon Judkins with the opportunities he was given. Mm-hmm. I think that would surprise a lot of people because I've seen that data. That's a different conversation. All right, let's talk about Sean Tucker and Zach Charbonnet.
Really fast.
I'll let you talk about Tucker because you're a little bit higher on him. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people know about these guys by now. But let's give 30-second takes on these.
Yeah, Sean Tucker, in my personal opinion, a do-it-all guy, probably a little bit undersized, 5'10", 205 or 210, however you want to see it. A guy that is a great pass-catching guy, a guy that can hit you in between the tackles, has really good home run speed just underneath. I want to say home run just underneath home run speed. I wish there was a word I can say. I guess it's just underneath home run speed, but I think it's there. The acceleration
above average.
Above average, just under.
No, not even above average. Above average.
Yeah. Everything I like about Sean Tucker. He's my RB3. I think he can carry the workload. He is a guy, in my personal opinion, that could be a top running back in the NFL in this year.
Yeah, I'm a bit split on him. He's tied as my RB4 with Zach Evans, but I do see a pathway. I'm curious if the NFL likes him the way that the Dynasty community does. All right, Zach Charbonnet, freak size, like 6'1", 220. You would be afraid to tackle this guy. 22 years old, coming out as a senior. Would have been my RB3 in last year's class if he had come out. Improved as a pass catcher drastically, which we like to see because everything else is there. Great yards after the contact, impressive vision, size, strength, vision, contact balance. Always pushing for more yards. Can instantly be a day one starter for an NFL team. First and second down guy who can develop into a true 3-down workhorse player. I see a lot of James Conner in his game, Deonta Foreman, Jamal Williams. I think he'll get second-round draft capital. I feel pretty good about that and instantly lead a team. We saw him get mocked to the Panthers the other day in the second round, which we really, really like.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
Right. In these next two tiers, I have one player in each. Do you as well?
Yes.
Okay, this will be good then. Jahmyr Gibbs is my tier 2. I'm a big fan of Jahmyr Gibbs, 5'11", 200 pounds. I just think there are so many elite traits on film. Breakaway percentage, 52.5%. That means over 52% of the time he had a carry, it was more than 15 yards. He was 8th in the nation in that category of running backs who had a minimum of 100 attempts. Gets to his long run speed really quickly. Great burst, great speed, versatility. You can put him in the backfield, in the slot, out wide, end arounds. Great pass catcher. He for passing snaps, he lined up as a receiver 26.4% of the time. He led Alabama in receptions this year. A very capable route runner. The size is the only concern, but I see a lot of I would say Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift. So I'm a big fan of his. And people who are concerned about his ability to lead a backfield as a rusher, go watch the games where there was no Bryce Young and he was called on early and often, like 25 plus carries. He dominated in those games and proved himself.
Yeah, he's a do-it-all guy. I think there's no matter where he goes, in my personal opinion, he's going to be the next one. Even if it's behind someone like a Dalvin, right? He's gonna take Dalvin's opportunity. Even if it's behind Alvin Kamara, he's gonna be taking those opportunities. He's gonna be stepping into their role. So I think even no matter where he goes, it's just gonna be great.
There's just so many elite traits.
100%.
So many.
100%.
Okay, and then we have Bijan Robinson as tier 1. No surprise. I mean, do we need to tell you guys about Bijan? I'm sure you already know who enough.
This is,
but
man. I mean,
best running back prospect since Saquon Barkley. Does that mean he's a better running back prospect than Saquon Barkley? No, but he is the best running back prospect since Saquon Barkley. I see a little Saquon, a little Marshawn Lynch, a little Reggie Bush. I think he can be a 3-down workhorse where an offense is centered around him. He'll get first-round draft capital. Incredible strength. Most missed tackles forced in college football this year. Great elusive rating, good vision, good patience, incredible cutback, great breakout age, dominator ratings there. He's a complete running back.
He's the full package. He's everything that you want. I won't be surprised, even though it's not ideal, but I won't be surprised if he does go in the top 10, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, he's got a range there. It's top 10, then maybe he has to go in the first round. We just don't know where.
If he goes past the 12, steal.
Yeah. All right, guys, that is it for today. Why don't you comment down below and tell us where you think we missed the mark or things that you agree with. Like the video, subscribe if you like Dynasty content, and we'll see you in the next video.
Yo, what's good? Thanks for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos,
watch it.
You can also subscribe
right now
if you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/DynastyLand fam.